So I've recently been introduced to some of Jackie Chan's older filmography. I'm actually not that well versed in some of the classic Jackie Chan movies. I was mostly exposed to the height of his popularity in the 90s and early 2000s. Though I've heard about his stunt work being legendary, I feel like I know him mostly for his more comedic later films. So in the collection of movies I was introduced to, I was shown Police Story, Dragon Fist, and The Protector. I was then told the most boring of the collection was Battle Creek Brawl, which for some reason was requested to be the subject of this video. Battle Creek Brawl, better known as The Big Brawl, is actually a very important movie for Jackie Chan's career. Apparently, it was the first big attempt to get him exposure to an American audience. It was also a success at the box office, though I guess not as big as they had expected it to be, as I think it took a few more years before he was really a household name in the States. Interesting note too, this movie has the same director as Enter the Dragon, so clearly the idea for Jackie to take the mantle of Bruce Lee was someone's idea. The plot of the movie is interesting. It takes place in 20s or 30s Chicago. Jackie plays Jerry, a young man who trains as a fighter, of course, much to his father's displeasure. He wants him to take on the reins running the family restaurant or perhaps be a doctor like his older brother. His father asks him how he will make a living fighting. This becomes relevant later. Turns out the restaurant is being shaken down by the mob. Jerry doesn't like this and ends up tangling with some of the gangsters. His skills draw the attention of the crime boss, who decides he wants Jerry to fight as his fighter in the ultimate Battle Creek Brawl in Texas. He persuades him by kidnapping his brother's fiancée, saying she will be returned if he fights in the tournament and wins. Meanwhile, one of the gangster's subordinates kills one of Jerry's friends, and ends up working with a rival gang to try and stop Jerry before he can go up against the main fighter. I will admit that I wasn't that excited to watch this one based on what I'd heard, but I was surprised how many interesting things I kinda liked about it that were in there. First of all, I thought it was an interesting setting to have Jackie Chan face down 30s gangsters. One of them was even played by Luca Brasi from The Godfather, which I thought was pretty awesome. This film also has some other actors playing some interesting roles, like Mako, who played Jerry's martial arts teacher. I was surprised that he pulled off some impressive stunts too, and is probably the best character in the movie, having some pretty good action scenes as well. Also, the crime boss is Emperor Shaddam IV from Dune. This movie is packed with all kinds of cool little elements for me. However, despite some of these cooler aspects, I think that there just wasn't really enough story to justify the length. Which is funny because it's not really that long of a movie, being about an hour and a half, but I feel like they could have shaved 15 or 20 minutes off easily, and it could have really helped with the pacing. However, I think that for the plot, you'd probably want to take out one or two of those big stunts, but those are kind of one of the biggest draws of the movie. However, I think the stunts in this movie aren't as good as some of the ones I saw in some of the other films. The two big exceptions, though, were the roller derby, which was something I never expected to see in a Jackie Chan film, and also the big brawl at the end with several of the fighters was pretty good too. Particularly when one fighter gets so irritated that he tries to kill Jackie Chan with a car. I feel like they hired a lot of professional wrestlers at the time to participate. It also kind of wraps up very quickly and a little too tidily. I guess the crime boss sticks to his word, he'll never bother Jerry's family again, which I thought was a little convenient. Of all the films in this collection that I watched, the story was very limited and so were the stunts. Though I think the biggest issue was actually the sound quality, as it was just hard to hear some of the dialogue parts. Overall though, I think it was a decent movie with an interesting setting and still worth a watch for good sequences of action and definitely for hardcore Jackie Chan fans. But Mako really made this movie for sure.